Hey everyone, welcome back to the School Bobbi podcast. I am so excited about today's episode. I got to record with Anna Manukyan, and she opened up our eyes to a whole new world. And I'm so excited to share this topic with you because we talked about something today that we've never talked about on the podcast before. And I know it's a topic in the industry that not a ton of people are informed about. So this interview I really think is so educational. And this is really an episode that you can get so much more information to make your life better. So today we talked about money, we talked about finances, and what we need to be doing to plan ahead in the beauty industry. So her main takeaway was start as soon as you can. So if you are listening to this episode and you're a beauty school student, this is definitely for you. Both of us talked about how actually we are so excited for the next generation of beauty professionals to be so much more informed about money. I know it's a topic that maybe socially we don't always talk about. And I think, especially in this industry, there's been so much negativity surrounding finances. I know that a lot of you have probably, in your own ways, whether it is through family members not supporting you coming into this, or maybe it's just that you have your own self doubt. I know that there aren't a ton of examples, or it's maybe not always put out there how financially successful you can be in this industry. And Anna and I talk so much about the ways that not only can you make a ton of money in this industry, but the ways that you can make your money work for you. So Anna gave so many takeaways on where to start and what we can do to find resources available to us specific to the beauty industry. Now, this isn't just a financial advisor that your dad goes to that is recommending for you to talk to. This is somebody that has been in the beauty industry for 25 years. And so her career has changed, and you'll get to hear her story today. But I think the most important piece is that Anna is doing something that she didn't think that she was going to do. She is the speaker and the leader in the industry on something that she didn't think that she was going to be the leader on, or the person that we go to seek advice from her for this subject. She came into the beauty industry, got her beauty license. And what's great about that is not only has she followed a different path, but it's a different path that is changing the industry for the better for all of us. So this episode is so great. Mark and I were actually just joking about how he was taking notes during this episode as well. So whether you've been in the industry for 30 plus years or you are a beauty school student listening in high school, there are so many takeaways today. And again, we're talking about money, which is not always something that is a comfortable conversation. But from Anna and I's perspective, we both were saying that if we can just, lead the next generation in a more educated way about finances and about how to set yourself up for longevity in this career, we are so happy to talk about it. So I hope you love this episode. It's so wonderful. Let me know what your main takeaways were. I want to hear your feedback about the conversation about money. Is this something that you've thought about yet? Is this something that you've needed guidance on? I think for us, it's really just, where do I start? How do I get started in this? This seems so overwhelming to talk about investments and assets and 401k and all of those things that maybe you didn't learn in beauty school. Maybe it hasn't even been a conversation at home. And so I think that this episode specifically is just so good for actual tips to make your life better, make your career better, and just make sure that we are being provided the resources that are typically given in other industries. So my episode is so great with Anna. I hope that you love it, and just make sure that you are following along. Make sure you subscribe to Beauty School Bobbi wherever you're listening to podcasts. Make sure you subscribe to our channel on YouTube. This episode is great. You'll get to see Anna's dog make a little entrance or a little appearance on the episode. So this is a great one to watch, but make sure you are subscribed everywhere that you need to be for Beauty School Bobbi and Beauty and Style Network. We'll see you next time. Hey everyone, welcome back to the Beauty School Bobbi podcast. Today I'm here with Anna Manukyan. I'm so excited to have you on the show. Thank you so much for being here with us today.
Thank you so much, Bobbi. I'm so excited. I know we've had this conversation for a long time behind the scenes, and I'm so glad the day is finally here.
I know. And I want you to know, and I tell you this like literally every time I see you, but you have the best hair in the beauty industry. Like, hands down, being at like America's Beauty Show with like 25,000 people and you walking through, and I can spot you from anywhere. You just have the best hair
That's a
ever. And
great
the
compliment.
pressure this morning, I was like, oh, do I need to go get a blowout? Like, what do I need to do?
The funny thing is I was thinking the same thing looking at you now because I'm like, oh, look at this. This is like, we just can do hair tosses. This is fantastic.
I know. Well,
Thank you.
thank you so much for being here. Because, like we said, I mean, we've talked a lot behind the scenes. I've followed you for a long time because what I love about you is you have brought such a different level of professionalism to the beauty industry. And I'm always looking for people that are bringing things that I feel like the beauty industry has been like left out of. If that's the right way to say it, is I'm like, why doesn't this exist yet here in other industries? It's super common to talk about finances and financial planning and all of those things. And I literally like, I'll hear salon owners or coaches talk about finances for salon owners, but talking to the individual stylist, beauty professional, even beauty school students is really where you thrive and bring in something so different. So I want to get into like all of the financial pieces and everything that you offer. But what I don't know about you is, how did you get into the beauty industry? Like, how did this start with you?
It's a good story. Thank you so much. It's really been I'll tell you the initial origin story, and then it'll make a little bit more sense of why I'm so passionate about what I do. Is we came to the U.S. when I was 9 years old as immigrants with my parents, just my parents and I at the time, and I started doing everything really early. I had my first job at 12 years old. I was always hustling. I knew that in the U.S., we have to hustle, we have to say yes in order to make it. And I learned a really good work ethic really early on in life. When I was 15 years old, I got my first job that I was incredibly proud of, and that was a receptionist at a salon in Burbank, California. And I was like, this is my first like official fancy adult job. And I very quickly fell in love with the beauty industry. I was like, wait, these guys make a great living. There's a lot of fun to be had. They're having, they're seeing clients they love. There's good camaraderie in the salon. Like, this is such a great way of making a living. I want to go to beauty school. And I always knew that I wanted to, pursue something in business as well. But my first love was like, I want to go to beauty school. So I hustled. I graduated high school a year early. At 17 years old, I remember going to, sign myself up for Morrow's Beauty College in Glendale, California at the time. And I go to tell my dad, like, Dad, I'm signing up for beauty school. I'm starting next week. Thinking he was going to be like, fantastic child, well done. And his exact response to me was, we came to the US for you to cut hair. How dare you embarrass the family?
Oh my gosh.
And I say that story, and I get chills every time I repeat that story, because it was such a reaction of, I'm sorry, what? What are you talking about? What? And from that point of being 17 years old, it really had planted a seed in me of, let me show you how successful a career in beauty can be. And so I'm very fortunate for the career that I've had. I started, again, in it officially at 15 years old, went to beauty school at 17. I started working at a hair salon as an apprentice, as an assistant in West Hollywood and then in Beverly Hills. And at the time, one of the gentlemen, sorry, Charlie Lee wants to say hello, the salon owner that I was working at happened to be an educator for an international brand. And they were looking for educators at the time. And he was like, listen, you seem to be really like into educating people. You're really curious about knowledge. Like, you're always the first one that's signing up for every salon class. You should look into becoming an educator, because in order to really be able to own something, you've got to be able to teach it. I was like, fantastic. So I applied to be a regional educator, and I was actually able to make it on the team. And then a year after that, I was able to get a full-time position on that team, leading other educators. And I was like, that is crazy to me. So I started working for L'Oreal actually when I was 20 years old. I couldn't couldn't get a rental car. I couldn't check into a Las Vegas hotel room by myself. The amount of arguments that I had with Las Vegas hotel managers about reverse age discrimination is too funny to tell. And what we were able to do, and I kept maintaining a clientele. I continued on to go and get my business degree. And I fell very quickly in love with not only this industry, but education, right?
Mhm.
And what I saw, Bobby, time and time again, I spent 20 years at L'Oreal. I was recently head of education and creative for Ulta Beauty. And throughout those times of leading, whether it's in creative salon teams, whether it's brand education, whether it's working with salons all across the US to really help them be more profitable, what became very quickly obvious to me is the fact that there's so much education to make sure that the guest is taken care of, to make sure that the craft is like technically sharp. And what I started seeing, regardless of the level of success, and I will say is that regardless of the level of success is kind of the important part, is I was seeing salon owners, stylists, celebrity stylists, rock star educators make so much money and either lose it all because of one bad day,
Mhm.
retire or end their careers with a GoFundMe account, or just be terrified because they didn't know what to do with the money that they were making. And there's so many programs around, again, how to make sure you're talking about retail, how to continue to build your business, how to make sure your color applications are completely beautiful and seamless. And so I started at the time, really looking at no one talks about what to do with the money that we make. And because of my immigrant background and because my parents didn't know what to do, we were very much functioning in survival mode. I was like, I didn't grow up having these conversations. A lot of the people that enter this industry also come from backgrounds where dinner conversations don't include wealth building. They don't include creating generational wealth. It's how do we survive today, this week, next month, and what does that change actually look like? So I started really looking for resources for education to bring into the teams that I was leading at the time. And guess what? I couldn't find anything. I couldn't find anything that didn't feel condescending, that didn't feel like it was over our head. And I remember laughing, being like, "Well, I look really good on paper. I'm a successful corporate executive." And every single time I go to talk to a financial planner, I wind up leaving completely inadequate. I wind up feeling so much more confused, and I wind up feeling this little
Mhm.
and completely unable to take any action because when you're confused and you're scared, you don't want to take any action. And I'm like, well, if I'm feeling this way, how does an independent stylist that's literally buying color for today to take care of their guests tomorrow, how are they navigating these conversations? And the reality is that we're not. And so when I started, because I started so early in this industry, I was really giving it some thought around what do I want my legacy to be? If I have 30 more years to spend in this industry that I love so much, that has given me so much, what is it that I want to change? And so I became, I got my financial certifications. I started a business really providing the financial education and resources. Um, I went and kind of dove into the accreditation for the certification piece of it so that I can really be a translator. Because again, one of the things that I like to say and that I really believe is that we spend our careers taking care of others, and it's really time for us to take care of ourselves. So,
Yeah. And I mean, you really are just one of those people. And I think, like, obviously, for how successful you've been in the industry, like, the main takeaway from all these people that we talk to is like, you really have to, like, find your own path sometimes. And it's not like you came into this industry with the idea. And that's what we always try to, like, if anyone's listening that's new in the industry or whatever, just understanding that this can take you a path that you don't even think that you are the one, right? I'm sure that you second guess yourself of saying, like, wait, I'm going to talk about the finances. Like, that's not what I came in here to do. But here you are. And I think, like, you understanding that, like, you can do that, number one. Like, why not you? If no one else is going to do it, why not you? And just having that confidence to figure it out. And I know that that's years long. And I'm sure there's a ton of, questioning yourself and all of that. But just staying the path to know that a door might open or there might be something for you to be in this industry that just you haven't even like thought of yet. So I love that about you because you saw the problem, you saw the need, and you filled that need and really became this person in the industry that everyone does go to for this or will recommend for this. Now, I think a couple of things are interesting that like you hit in there, and I want to talk to you more about, but like the idea of you being like, I want to come into this industry already kind of feeling like, even though you did it, which is amazing, like that just speaks volumes to who you are. That even though your dad was like, wait, what? Like, okay, I'll show you kind of thing. I don't know if it was more that mentality, if you're that kind of person, like that's how I am. I'm like, oh, tell me I can, I will. Or if it was just like you were so driven. Did your dad, like, did he ever get to see, or did he get to see that you were right in this and that like you created something big?
Yeah, and it's only recent, honestly,
Okay.
because I think it's only recent of him being able to see some of the things, or for where I've been fortunate to, like, the first family vacation, again, immigrant status, the first family vacation that we were able to go on is when I took my parents and my sister to Hawaii, because I was going there to teach, and it was like, let's go, everybody, and so there's been moments throughout the last, 25 years now where I think my parents were like, huh, you've been able to do all of that? And half the time they don't even know what I do, right? I think I kind of laugh about the fact, if you remember Chandler from Friends, like nobody really knew. I think that's how a lot of our families is like, what is it that you do exactly? But, they've been able to see what perseverance looks like. They've been able to see what again, true success of, like, not necessarily following a traditional path can look like.
Hmm.
One of the things that you touched on that I want to double down on as well is there's so much looking looking in from inside, or looking in outside out. How's that saying go? Looking in from the outside, I think that's the word. Um, we don't know what we don't know. There's so many different career paths. There's so many jobs. There's so many things to explore. There's so many things to create within this industry that I think most people have no idea that even exists. And again, they don't even know that what truly the possibilities are. And I think that's been also really fun, is to continue to create paths for, not only myself, but for anybody that's listening, is that keep going, because the people that, the amount of people that enter this industry oftentimes and are like, yeah, it's not really for me. It's not what I thought it was going to be. This is very much a choose your own adventure. It can be
Hmm.
whatever you want it to be. And when you look at, the people that you and I, have the pleasure of working with, I mean, there's so many people make so much more than, people who have hundreds of thousands of debt of medical school bills, and, of legal bills and everything else. You can make an incredibly successful living here, but you also have to quiet your own little voice when it's telling you can't do it, when things get hard. It's not an overnight success a lot of the times. And so put in the work, stay curious, and keep showing up, and look for the opportunities that you can create and the needs that you can fill. And it's wildly fantastic of how much success and influence you can have.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's times too that like it does push you outside of your box into a way of like, yeah, like I said, like somebody not believing you or not always understanding. Like there's probably always that little piece, because I have the same experience. And as much as there are days that I'm like, I just want, like I want the, I don't know if it's, I don't, it's not, praise isn't the right word, but I want the like, I want them to see that I did it. And I want them to see that, yes, I took a very different route than what was expected. And I know a lot of people feel this way. So I'm so thankful that you shared that part, because it's easy just to see you where you are now, and be like, oh, well, she didn't have to go through this. And I'm so thankful that you shared that, because I think that is a really common experience of family maybe not being on board, but pushing through anyways. And I also think that it's the thing that keeps me going. I'm like, no, it's the thing that's challenging me. So it can be both things, that you can not be receiving all of the support that you need, or maybe the person that you're trying to get the support from isn't the one that you're getting it from. But that often is what drives us. And that can be a positive also.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think, I'll use the word validation, right? Because oftentimes we
Yes.
seek validation from people that we care about, that we love. And, and again, being able to create your own reality. And I do feel like we have the ability to do that in this industry more so than some other ones do, where it doesn't have to be as restrictive. I think
Hmm.
oftentimes the opinions of other people, or the sometimes the little voice, the little negative voice within our heads, is like what really provides the restriction. Once you kind of get past, like, all right, I'm good, let's figure this out, and it's okay to do things scared. It's okay to do things unsure, as long as you keep moving forward and evolving. Like, God, the future is yours.
Yes, that's so true. And I love hearing that from you. Like I said, I think it's just like great for anyone that's new to see that this is how it starts with we all have those feelings. It's not like there's a magic, golden like road that, some of us walk on and you got to walk on, but it's different that it's not different than everyone else. The stories are always very similar of coming into this, which leads to my next question, because one of the things that I want to talk about, I think that maybe even if the person listening isn't there yet. When you first start making money in this industry, especially if you're somebody that, in my experience as well, like didn't grow up in that. So it wasn't, what was expected. Like I think what I thought, my goals were when I was 18 years old of what I could make, financially, like is different than now, right? And as you get older and things change, you have a different understanding of that also. But understanding wealth in this different kind of way, or maybe seeing it from others and being like, wait, I want that, or I want, these things also. You going in to talk to somebody that wasn't in the beauty industry with money, when you had money to talk about, right? Like at that point when you're like, even if it's very different than it is now, when you first were like, wait, I actually have something to bring to the table. I'm making, like real money, right? Where you have something to do. What was that like going in to talk to a financial advisor, or what was it that led you to even go talk to somebody to know that you needed to be doing something with your money? Because again, I think if you didn't grow up with that, it probably, like you said, it wasn't a conversation that was had of like, and you need to do all these things. How did that happen for you?
I mean, quite honestly, I was fortunate in that I worked for, the company that I worked for was they had brought in, because 401ks used to be completely voluntary. Right now, there's a lot of laws that have been changed where you get automatically enrolled, but then you have to opt out. But back in the day, it was a completely like you had to sign up for it. And so I remember being at a meeting very early on in my career, and there was a representative from T. Rowe Price that came, and she was doing the explanation of how money works and how compounding interest is so incredibly, like, that's the most important part when it comes to having your money grow. And so one of the exercises that she did, and remember we were at a table where you had to plot yourself on the timeline of your life between 18 to like 80 years old. And I, at that point, was at the very beginning of my lifeline and at the beginning of my career. And I was looking around the table, because when you start that early, you're usually the very youngest by, a couple of decades in many cases. And was looking around the table, and I saw the fear and the panic and the realization of, oh my God, I should have done this earlier, from like 2/3 of the table, because they were in their 50s at that point. Some of them were in their 60s, some of them were in their late 40s. And so at that time, they were like, oh, you have to get to do this now, because I saw the, oh my God, in their eyes or in their reaction. And so that was really my first kind of understanding of, oh, this is something that exists, because I didn't even know that investing, or had literally zero idea of how any of that worked. I just thought you had a savings account and that was it. And whatever you made, you put on your savings account, and that's what you're going to do to have money. After that experience, it was one of those things where I didn't even know. I just trust the process of, like, I automated it. I think what I will say though is, regardless of, if you're listening to this, and if you work for an organization that provides you a 401k, definitely take advantage of it. What I will say though is, do not wait until you are quote unquote making money, or until you're quote unquote successful, or until you're quote unquote reach the goals that you have, to actually start investing. Because when you look at how money grows, when you look at the fact that time is by far the biggest tool that we have with creating longevity, with creating long-term investments. Even if it's $20 a week, $50 a week, get used to being in the process of buying assets and of giving your money a job to do, versus you constantly working for money. You know this, I know this, life does not get any cheaper, life does not get any less busy, life does not get any less complicated. And so what I've seen, so many people make the mistake of saying, when I make, my first 6 figures is when I'll start to invest. When I get that next promotion is when I'll start to invest. And in the meantime, like, decades have gone by, years have gone by. Use the example of, if you invested $1,000 into Apple 20 years ago, you would have had, $160,000 just by $1,000, right? And granted, when you look at what's happening around, around now with so many new technology coming up and so many, things, it's the minute that you start to make your first paycheck, start to change your mindset from being a consumer of things to an investor of things. So even if, the common joke is the hairdresser diet is coffee is Starbucks, right? Starbucks and something. Starbucks. It used to be Starbucks and cigarettes. Then it became Starbucks and Red Bull, and now it's like Starbucks and Celsius. And I'm like, oh my God, are we okay? Are we okay, guys? Let's not, how much caffeine do we really need? But even if you look at the small amounts that add up over time. For example, I did this exercise recently, and I was like, oh, this is really interesting. So if you bought Starbucks 4 days a week, and I'm never going to be one to tell you to give up your Starbucks. Listen, enjoy it. If that's what brings you joy, enjoy it every morning. However, think about how it affects your behaviors another way. So if for the last 20 years, right, we bought a Starbucks 4 days a week, we would have spent about $27,000. Like, all right, 20 years, $27,000, it gives you joy, whatever it is. And that's about $116 a month. If you had invested $116 a month and bought Starbucks stock with it, you would have had over $200,000.
Oh my gosh.
And so it's the thing. And so it's like, it's changing the mindset of I'm going to make money. I'm going to be successful. How do I train my brain of learning to be an investor and buying things that are using my money to buy things that are going to give me money back, that are going to plant seeds that I can then live off of, versus just consuming, because we live in a world that it makes it very, very easy to consume. And when you look at how, big corporations, big financial corporations work, how banking works, there's so much money that those organizations make off of us not knowing, from interest, from, just from not investing, that they're literally making billions of dollars off of us. It's not information that's going to be easily available. And so again, paycheck number one, set up a brokerage account, even if it's, something like Acorns or Robinhood or Fidelity or Vanguard. Even if, again, it's $20 a week, $50 a week, whatever you can do from the minute that you start making money, automate it, forget it. When you start to make more money, up that a little bit more. Years fly by. And when your money is starting to buy assets, you're starting to build wealth without even really realizing it. $27 a day, if you think about it, like you can make or break $10,000 a year by $27 a day. It's $27 a day. You're like, oh, that's an Uber Eats order. That's my daily lunch for some people, right? And don't think of wealth in, like like how do you eat an elephant, right? One bite at a time. The same thing that has to do with wealth and investing. Very rarely are people going to win the lottery or have like an incredible amount of coming at them. And guess what? A lot of people that even have that wind up being broke anyway. So it's really about establishing systems, behaviors that are consistent and that will give you long-term success and longevity.
Yeah, it seems overwhelming for sure, especially like in the beginning when you first get started. So, for somebody that's starting with that first paycheck, you mentioned a couple of businesses like that we could start with, and I know is all apps and all of that stuff now. Like it's probably easier than ever to get started. What is the recommendation for you? Like, where do you recommend somebody start that hasn't done anything with this yet, hasn't started this process? Because like I said, I know it can really feel overwhelming. You have a ton of resources. I know that we're going to plug later so that we all know where to follow and get your tips, because your tips are so good and just easy to digest. So what's your number one recommendation of where to start?
First is open a high yield savings account. I would do a high yield savings account that you can, that's SoFi, Capital One, because you don't want to keep any savings, anything that you're saving, you don't want to keep money in the bank. Step one, you don't want to keep money in the bank. Money in the bank is literally a depreciating asset. So you want anything that you're working for, you want to have working for you. So easiest thing, you can get it in and out within, 12 to 24 hours. Step one would be high yield savings account. Step two would be a brokerage account. So a brokerage account is like a bank account, Bobbi, but it's where your investments are going to live. And then from there, you can decide, well, do I just want to keep, investing and purchasing like different ETFs or different stocks. We could talk about that later. Do I want to have my retirement account set up? But it's going to be the account that you need. And it sounds fancy, it sounds overwhelming. It's really not, I promise. Look at Vanguard, look at Acorns, look at Robinhood, look at E-Trade, Fidelity, Charles Schwab. There's so many different institutions. Literally, go online. And they do vary state by state a little bit. I love Vanguard and I love Charles Schwab. And say how to open a brokerage account. It's literally a step by step. You're going to link your bank account with the brokerage account, and then from there, once you transfer money in, you're going to be able to even automate it and buy, invest on a monthly basis, for example, so that your money is I'm a big fan of like sneaky investing. So you're not having to think about it all the time. There's strips of money that are going in, your portfolio is growing. You check in, you can even look at it every couple of months and be like, oh, I have that much in there, fantastic. Right? And start to have that money there for you. Once you know a little bit more about what you're doing, that as soon as you can, I would definitely open up a retirement account. Again, don't wait until the earlier that you start, the better off that you are. Those would be the three kind of key ways to get going.
Okay, I love that. Now, specific to the beauty industry, I know that you have obviously been around enough people to see people do things right and to see people do things like a harder way, maybe not a wrong way, but a harder way. And I think one of the things that we've heard a lot, and I know beauty school students have heard, is that like you can't retire in this
Oh
industry. So
gosh.
I know that that's changing, but it is something that is literally said. Like, how many people do you see retiring from this? Well, what are you seeing changing? Is it that there is more money to be made in the industry, or people are just maybe because of how available everything is, they are just doing things different with their money?
It's being curious and starting the conversation sooner. It's interesting that you say that. A couple of years ago, I fell down a rabbit hole there's a page on Facebook that I'm a member of called We Love Hair Education. And this is a couple of years ago that one of the stylists had asked, for those of you in the US, like, what does retirement look like? And there was over 800 comments. I have some of them snapshotted actually. There was over 800 comments of us being basically the butt of our own joke of like, you don't retire, you curl up and die. We don't retire, we die with what was one? We die with scissors in our hand like a soldier dies with his gun. Marry someone rich, get a sugar daddy, make sure you have a husband with health with health care and then a pension. And I was like, oh my God. And again, over 800 people actually wrote in. And there was just a couple sprinkled in that said, start early, build a retirement fund, all of these things. And so I think step one is start as soon as you can. Again, we have the notion of, we come into this industry. I think one of the things that I'm so passionate about changing is the mindset around money, is the mindset of like taking out the shame. If you don't know it, it's okay. Most people that come into this industry have no idea. The reality is that more than half of Americans outside of the beauty industry, half of Americans in general are considered to be financially illiterate. We just feel more shamed about it because it's not something that's talked about industry wide. First one is like, get over yourself. If you don't know it, it's okay. Stay curious, and it's okay. Like, ask the difficult questions. You'll be able to make surprisingly incredibly good decisions when you just start asking questions and you're not ashamed of that, of not knowing. So step one is there. Step two, again, start as soon as you possibly can. I talk about the $10,000 a year being $27 a day, like $6.60 a day over the course of 30 years is almost $500,000. And that's $6.60 a day. So we don't need to have these like astronomical amounts. It's break it down. What can you do weekly? What can you do monthly? Set it and forget it. Time goes incredibly quickly. I always feel like January is like the longest month of the year, and next thing we know, it's the holiday time again. Next thing we know, it's the holiday time again. And years and decades are flying by. And the longer you're in it, typically the faster it goes. The other thing that's interesting that I didn't touch on earlier is, this is an important factor for anybody that is entering this industry to know, and to start adjusting to it as quickly as possible is, unfortunately, we're one of the industries where the longer we're in it, the less money we make. If you look at kind of what happens during that first 5 to 7 years, we're hustling, we're saying yes, we're building, we want to be that busy salon owner, we want to be that busy stylist. We get there and people are tired. We plateau. We
Mhm.
don't want to take new guests. We don't, hustle as much. We're like, no, I'm finally good. And what happens during the last decade is it's a very slippery decline into making less and less and less money and keeping less of what we have. And traditionally, the four things that we never account for as an industry is inflation. The first time I heard people talk about inflation industry wide after being here for 25 years was last year because it was at a 30-year high. So literally everywhere you went, we felt it. But inflation, or the like basically how much our dollar can purchase, goes up every single year. So as you're starting this journey, for anyone listening, get very comfortable with staying educated, with continuing to really elevate your expertise, and for charging accordingly, for keeping an eye on what are the increases that you need to make as a business owner every single year, because the costs around you are going to go up every single year. So being aware of the numbers that way first is really important. The second one is, client attrition. Clients move, clients leave, clients don't come back, clients decide to wait longer between visits. So knowing and owning your business is incredibly important. Third is physical decline. You're not going to race a sports car for 30 years. At some point, you're going to have to change the oil. At some point, you're going to have to rotate the tires. You're going to have to take good care of the vehicle that takes you places. And again, we talked about it earlier, the hairdresser diet is considered to be Starbucks and caffeine, right? So not only take care of yourself physically, but also understand the kind of insurance you have so that if something happens where one day you have to take a 6-month break or your body gives out, that you're not losing everything that you've built. And the last thing of why a lot of people struggle financially later on in this career is again the lack of financial planning and financial literacy. And so I'm almost anytime I have a chance to talk to beauty school students or people just entering this industry, there's such a pleasant envy that comes with it of, oh my God, do you know if you know these things and you're able to apply them when you're entering, like how wildly successful and lucrative your future can be. So for anyone listening, like make sure you stay curious, start to invest your money as soon as you can. I'm here to help. You're here to help. Whatever resources we can provide to make that easier for people. But don't sleep on starting to pay yourself first. Don't sleep on planning for your future. And definitely have your money working for you as soon as possible versus like hustling to work for the money.
Yeah. I wonder, do you feel like that it's changed in the last, like, I don't know, I've been in the industry, like in this beauty world for 13 years and just the perception of it, and the idea of it, it feels like, the industry is changing financially in a significant way. Do you feel that way also, that there's more opportunity, but then, okay, what do we do with that? Or have you felt like this has kind of always been the trajectory?
It's interesting. There's more awareness around it, right? So the conversation socially has changed. There's two sides of because even going on TikTok and some clients being like, wait, people charge what for hair for there's it's so expensive to get your hair done. So there's definitely an awareness of how much success and how much money there is to be made within beauty, and how much people charge and how lucrative it can be. I think on the other side of that coin is it's not an overnight success. And so I think sometimes when people are entering our industry, there's an expectation of, all right, I'm going to be a mega superstar socially, and I'm going to have like a really lucrative behind the chair business. And as we know, you're 13 years in, I'm 25 years in, things generally don't happen overnight. And if they do happen overnight, it's really hard to have the systems in place to maintain that success versus being like a one-hit wonder, right? So,
Mhm.
so I think the optics are changing a little bit. What I will say though is I sit on the board for ABS. I'm a cosmetologist Chicago, and interestingly enough, the conversation around so much of the legislation around our industry is still for it to be deregulated. Like there are states actively wanting to eliminate licenses or really decrease the hours because optically it's still not seen as a lucrative career because they're like, okay, well, the cost of beauty school is X. If you look at the average tax return, it seems like people are getting very creative and people are not making enough money to justify the cost of entry to this industry. So we still have a lot to do to elevate to elevate the optics of what success and beauty looks like. So it is changing, but we have a lot more to do.
Yeah. And I will tell you too, like from my perspective, and I see it a lot at our school, but I know it's happening. We were just at a school owners conference. And I know it is the beauty school student itself is changing. And where I'm going with this, I think you're going to appreciate, at least for them, the way that I'm thinking about, we want better for the future and we want this to be a successful career so that when somebody does go to their parents, say they want to do this, it's an excitement. But there's a student that's at the school right now, and I know I just see the parent of the student changing
Mm-hmm.
to where I met with someone recently whose dad is like an orthopedic surgeon. I met with somebody whose dad is a financial advisor, and I was talking to him and I was like, oh man, I have so many questions, and like what the questions he had, because I was like, I know what you've seen or heard
Mm-hmm.
about the industry, and I wanted to talk to him about that. So it's like these students are coming in, I think, even more prepared too. So in a way where we didn't have those conversations, I just think the student changing is going to make the industry better because it's supported and because they're coming in more aware than we were starting financially, and even maybe have more support than we had. Now that's definitely like a gift, right? Like that's great for that student. But I also think it is great for the industry as a whole, that there is just more education, of the students coming in, because man, that step forward of what we wish we had, or of that too. So I think the industry is changing in that way, but I think it is our responsibility. And again, the thing that I love about you and bringing in this thing that is like, oh, well, that's not for the beauty industry, or even just any kind of those extra professional things that I feel like had been missing. I
Mm-hmm.
just love that you're bringing that in as an example of being like, no, go look at her, like go see what she's doing, what she's providing. And that makes the parent feel better, as well as setting the student up. But it's like, they don't even always know what they need, but I know it does help the parents feel better and just seeing this as a more professional industry, because we're having these conversations that I think just didn't happen in the industry before, or if it did, it was on a major corporate level and maybe just not as talked about socially. So I think that just all of this is for the better, and I think the industry is only becoming more professional. But I do think we're at the beginning of that. I think we're very much at the beginning of financial advisors and people like that thinking of this industry as anybody that they even want to recruit or talk
Mm-hmm.
to. And I wonder if that with everybody being smarter with their money and hopefully being able to be success stories, having this legacy, having this wealth, I'm excited to see just how that shift changes. But it's not without these conversations. It's not without educating each other
Mm-hmm.
on how to do better and how to be more professional. And I'm sure that you feel this way, but yeah, you have friends that are like doctors or whatever, and you're like, why do you have so many more resources available? Like, why is nobody talking to us about this stuff, or becoming a part of it?
Yeah, no, it's true. But it is nice to see. I do agree that, we're getting more comfortable asking the difficult questions. We're getting more comfortable being curious and not feeling so ashamed of not knowing certain things as an industry. And I think to your point, that's when the change is going to start to happen. And I'm so optimistic for what the next 10 years look like. It's exciting.
Yeah, no, I am too. And I think, like I said, just the more that we can show the success and show that this is a real career, it's going to help with legislation. It's going to help for all those things that we have people advocating for us always, and thankful for the boards and all the things that we have, this amazing group of people that come together to make the industry better. And I'm just excited to see that the professionalism of that. And I think just showing other people that are young, going into the high schools and showing them and being that role model of success is really important. So now when you've been talking to students, stylists, estheticians, there's many different sides,
Mhm.
of the beauty industry, different types of beauty professionals. Who do you wish that you could, say, listen up, I know that you need me, this is missing you? Is there a group that you feel like is it beauty school students that just need this education a little sooner? Like, what is the section that you're like, that you want to break into, that you're like, I can't wait to talk to you and share what I know, because it's not there yet?
Oh my goodness, all of the above. I think a different level of focus and different level of excitement obviously comes through. with different, with different segments of our industry. I think, again, that blind and incredible optimism for beauty school students is,
Mhm.
oh my gosh, if you get this now, like seriously, you in 10 years, you in 20 years, if you think you can be successful, just like you can literally be a multimillionaire with just making a few decisions now that will completely benefit you for like the rest of your life. Um, I think there's like a complete blind, like just joy and enthusiasm of being able to speak to beauty school students around that because it's like literally the future is yours. Looking at people that are 15 years in, that are looking at, okay, well, I haven't done this before, and what do I do? And really helping them, like, it's never too late to start. Let's figure out how it is that you can start to um, plant the seeds now so that when you're looking at yourself in 10 years and 15 years, you're not worried about retirement. You're not worried about, oh my God, do I need to, start selling feet pics on the internet? Like, which are so many of the comedic conversations. It's like, no, let's look at what we can actually do to help you out and make sure that you feel good about the legacy that you're building, that you feel good about the career that you're living, and that you feel good about creating something that is going to sustain you when you're no longer taking care of your guests. I think barbers continue to be a really big opportunity as well because it's such a transactional business and there's so much money and it's so much cash that's exchanged. And oftentimes, again, the conversation isn't happening around like just stash away, invest a little bit of it. Don't keep it in the bank. Invest it. Start to buy pieces of businesses, regardless of what you're doing, and that will feed you for years to come in the long run. So it really depends on. I have different levels of excitement on different things different things that they pull on, depending on which side of the industry I have the ability to connect with.
Yeah, and it all just goes back to knowledge and education, and we're all coming in to the same job and same opportunities, but with different knowledge. And all of us, like that's not like a one-sided thing. It really is like everyone just comes in with what they have and what they've been taught, in their families, in their home life. And I'm just so excited to be able to give our students a resource, and I know you're a resource to so many, and thankful for the organizations that you're working with because I really think it puts you out there in a great way too, because it's just about the conversations. Do you have any like highlights over the last, in your career that you're like, I helped make a difference here? Do you have any stories or moments that stick out to you where you're like, okay, they followed the plan. Like I got them to this point and they taught and then it came back and it was just like, wow, I helped with
Yeah,
that.
I mean, there's so many, so many. One that always stands out was an educator that I was working with, and I've known her for years and different. She was on one of the education teams for one of the brands that I was leading at the time, and then our paths kept crossing professionally because just we kept our paths kept crossing professionally, and she attended. I had done a master class of sorts. And she attended the very first one. And it was, an 8-part series. And she wasn't sure. We kind of went back and forth. And she was like, no, I'm going to do this. And her life completely drastically changed after. And she wrote me the most heartfelt, long letter of detailing everything that had changed in her life and everything that she was able to take from the learnings that she had had and how she was able to literally survive and persevere through a really difficult time of her life and not be financially freaked out, not have it be, completely break her bank and everything that she had built over the course of a 20-year career. And how she's like this literally was a life changing and a life saving experience. And so, there's so many moments of, yes, I was able to change things. And yes, I'm out of debt. And yes, I'm able to invest. But to have somebody navigate, because you never know when a bad day is going to happen. You never know when your life's going to go upside down. As, unfortunately, as we both know, things can happen. And to see the fact that somebody was not only able to survive and persevere, but they didn't lose the legacy of everything that they had built, which would have been able to very easily happen. I'm like, okay, even if nothing else happens moving forward, I'm able to rest easy every night knowing that the difference is happening for people.
Yeah. That's so great. That always is like so good to just know that like because sometimes when you're talking, you're like, I don't know if anyone's listening. It's just like good to get that affirmation that, it's worked and that you have been able to help so many people and to hear that back is awesome. Now there are a lot of ways that we can follow you, but I want to talk about what you're doing specifically. If there is a salon owner that's listening, or if there's somebody that wants to get their team in front of you, I want to talk about the different ways that we can reach you and what resources, because I know you work again with a lot of different brands, a lot of different companies and stuff. So, what's the best way to get you in front of people? And we'll talk about beauty school students, but too. But how can people find you or have access to you?
There's so many ways. The first one, easiest way is follow me on Instagram, Anna Manukyan. Second way is there's an incredible amount of resources that I provide on a weekly basis over at beautifulwealth.com. I've read, I don't even know how many tens of hundreds of books around finance with certifications and everything else. And so one of the things that I did was compiled everything into essentially an e-guide because financial principles don't change. That, for somebody that's listening that like, I don't even know where to start, get your e-guide, beautifulwealth.com, get started. It's 7 steps to financial mastery, regardless of whether you're seasoned 30-year veteran or whether you're just getting started. That's going to give you kind of a really solid breakdown of like all the things that you need to know from a getting started financial basis. That's for free. There's so many resources online. I work with the PPD brands, the L'Oreal professional brands, on their level system. So I'm always happy to come in using someone's points if you want to have a personal class, or they can also book me through that through their points via PPD for virtual education, everything else. And then I'm very fortunate to be at all of the main shows, and I partner with brands across the industry. So depending on what brand you're aligned with, typically there's a way that we can get either live or virtual time together. But to stay as a first learning, as a first like bit of exposure, I would say go online. I do not only a weekly newsletter, but also there's so much education through the e-guide that you can really get started learning. And then that way, if you contact me on Instagram or anything else, I can be more intentional with being able to answer your questions, because at that point you already have kind of an idea of what baseline financial education.
Yeah, and from our perspective too, and I know other salons, feel this way, is it's education and getting people to come in for education
Mhm.
is challenging, right? We're all talking about that and going through what this is going to look like and how it's changed over the last few years. But I think what's really important is, finances are super personal.
Mhm.
So I like that you're giving resources ahead of time too. So if somebody is able to get to a class, obviously that's great, and I like that there's resources prior to that happening. But I do think that this is the kind of class that a lot more people, I mean, definitely us at our beauty school, like looking at, our educators, thank goodness, are just amazing. Like I know they're getting the technical down,
Mhm.
but a lot of schools are, and there's a big conversation around this and curriculum and what's being taught with regulation and stuff, but like this kind of stuff needs to be in there.
Yeah.
This is all stuff that we need to be able to provide as school owners to set our students up for success. And so I know that just the kind of education is changing. So I think even more so, these kinds of classes
Mhm.
are going to become even more sought after, even more valuable, because people have, done not that you ever stop learning your craft, but I just think that adding these kinds of classes in,
Mhm.
especially being able to still do it through level and everything, is so amazing. Like this isn't just like some financial person out there that we found and we brought. No, this is industry specific. It's backed by the biggest brands in the beauty industry. So still being able to have access to that, but being industry specific, I just know that this is an amazing resource, and we're so lucky to have you specializing in this. Because, like I said, there's not really a lot of other people doing this, and you understand it in a different way from just going to someone that works with every other industry. This is really, you have a different understanding, so you're able to help faster, I think, too. We don't have to go through all of the like eye rolls and stuff, like just get in there, you understand the beauty professional, and you can offer that. So I'm really, really excited and thankful that you're doing it for beauty school students too.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. No, my honor, I mean, it really is, when I think about what is it that my legacy is, this is my life's work and my passion, regardless of, anything else that I've been fortunate enough to do with on the brand and the creative side and the education and the more artistic side. Ultimately we all need to make a living, and we all need to make sure that we're financially taken care of, so that we are thriving and not just surviving, or that we're not the joke of our own, or the butt of our own jokes later on in life.
Yes, absolutely. Well, thank you so much. We want to link everything that you just said down below. So if you're watching on YouTube, you'll see that down below. Or if you're listening, we'll have it in the podcast details to where we can get that guide, where we can get connected with you. And I think a lot of people for sure are going to be excited about the level access that they have now. So thank you so much for being here with us. And I'm so thankful for the information that you shared, and even more. And when we have specific questions, like we can always follow up and do even more episodes to get more specific about, certain situations and the things that you are seeing as time changes. Cause like you said, I mean, we are constantly changing like financial needs and
Mhm.
what that looks like. So I'm just thankful for your time and love that we were able to finally connect.
Thank you. And just so happy to have been here, Bobby. Thank you. I always admire what you do and the conversations that you have, and the thought leader that you are in this industry. So also very grateful for you.